You have no idea what you're dealing with.
Welcome to the Dude Catholic Podcast. I'm your co-host Adrian here with a man who can play the violin with a piano.
I'm Ramon.
Yeah, you are. Today, we talk about our baseball team, the Dodgers. I know we don't really talk too much about sports, and I think it's a good thing because I don't know anything. All I know is like, oh, they won today. Oh, they lost today. Oh, that kid used to be my student. Oh.
Hey, facts, huh?
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's about it. And it's kind of a good thing because I don't know if you've been paying attention, but if you haven't, sports are going in a different direction. And it's no longer about the sport, it's about the message and what message they want to send and who they want to please as far as their fan base goes. So today we're going to talk about that a little bit. As far as the, I'm going to try to keep it short so I can give Ramon a little bit of time because it's just been me, and I love the sound of my voice and all, but dang.
I love the sound of your voice too.
Thank you. Yeah, so Dodgers invited an organization, and you probably already heard this to death, but if you haven't, that's why we're here. Called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who are not sisters, they are brothers who are dressed as sisters. And they're basically, it's a drag show. You know, it's a drag show desecrating the faith. Dodgers put it out there that they were going to have them. People were like not cool about that. And then the Dodgers were like, oh, sorry, we got to uninvite them. But then they got backlash from that side of the aisle. And then they're like, sorry about that. We're having them again. Go equality. Go rights. That's basically the gist of it. Is that right, Ramon?
That's right.
Cool. So join us next.
It's crazy. I never served in the military, but I know, and I love people that have. Like I know personally, and especially combat veterans. One of my buddies, he told me a couple stories. He didn't really talk about the war just because it wasn't like nice. He'd tell me the funny stuff mostly, but sometimes he would kind of tell me some stuff that he experienced over there, and he wouldn't speak ill of Muhammad or Islam, but he was aware of how fanatical these people were. They not only worshipped Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, and Allah, but they really were about their faith. And if anybody went against them, they were either beheaded or tortured and hanged. And they would do that to a lot of like gay dudes over there. And he was telling me that there was they carved. Well, one time he saw a bunch of naked dead bodies hanging from a bridge, and in Arabic they carved all along their torso the word, I guess homosexual, but in a very derogatory term. And just to think just how great America is that you get to experience your right of freedom of religion and expressing your beliefs, you know. And these clowns called the Sisters of whatever the
Perpetual Indulgence.
Yeah, whatever the hell that is. Cool, dude. That's awesome. But to go mainstream, like with the Dodgers, dude, like that's America's sport. That's crazy. That's America's sport. You have a lot of reach, and I know these clowns are targeting children because I've seen a lot of like posts on Instagram, and there's one that like literally made me sick to my stomach, where there was and I'm not just complaining. Like, there's a point to this. There's a point to this. But there was like, I guess, some sort of like pride parade, where they were dressed as like with leather and like buttless chaps and what have you, and they were out in the street like marching like that, like yay pride, yay equality or whatever the hell they're trying to express. And then there was like this fetish, I didn't even know this existed, with like puppy fetish or whatever.
Oh, the furries.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but they have like dog masks and like leather dog masks, and they're practically naked. Then they stop in front of a little girl, and this clown is just wagging his tail as he's being walked on a leash. And then the little girl pets the if you want to call that a man,
the dude,
yeah,
the douche.
And again, I believe in freedom of expression, your freedom of religious, whatever you want to believe. But when they're coming for our children, this is when we have to speak up. When they're trying to go mainstream. And I know our buddy Anthony doesn't really want to say anything, but he brought up a really good point, how pedophiles are using this garbage to infiltrate. And I'll be damned if I let these clowns reach my children. And I know it comes down to personal responsibility, what you let your children watch, and more importantly, how close you're going to get them to the faith. I know I'm not the perfect example of what it is to be a Catholic man, and even less what it's like to be a Catholic father. But I, at the very least, say prayers with them, and I do try to live a certain lifestyle that reflects that. Like, hey, like, all right, cool, like, you're a follower of Jesus Christ. Not perfect, never perfect, but I'm here. I'm here in the race.
And that's why we're here. Not because of the perfection or anything, but because we gotta build a little bit of community to support each other with other imperfect dudes. So, man, where to go from there? I don't know if you've noticed, but they're coming. They're coming after your kids, and they're being very bold about it. Like, it's a full, like, on attack. Like, they're making the devil very visible, like, you see him on the award shows, you see him, like, everywhere. They're just putting him in front of you, because if they're honest with you about it, then you can't say you didn't know. But just like we mentioned in the past, if you put a frog in hot water, it's going to jump out. But if you gradually increase the heat of that water, the frog's going to die and not even notice that it's dying. So they've turned up the heat. And if we don't jump out, we're going to die. That's just to simply put it, Our soul is in the midst of all that. And it's a full front attack. You got, like I said, the devil is all over the place. Like, the gay agenda is all over the place. And like we said, like, freedom of expression, whatever, not everyone's Catholic. We live in a country that protects religious freedom of speech, whatever, but they're coming after your kids. And it's no longer just that they're going to come for... No, it's like really obvious. Like, it's really right in front of you that they're doing what they're doing. And if we're not paying attention to what our kids are looking at in their phone, if we're not using the tools that we're given, they're at the mercy of someone else who has an agenda to enculturate your kids and to brainwash them into believing whatever they believe, whatever the powers that be, whoever has control over media wants them to believe. And they're doing a hell of a job. Like if you pay attention to all the conspiracy theories, or like I like to call them teaser trailers now, they're basically predicting what we want. If you're paying attention, your phone is paying attention, and it knows what you're talking about. That's why I'm getting ads for, like, balding shampoos and whatnot, because it knows that I know I'm losing my hair. And sometimes it gets ahead of me. Like, sometimes I don't even say something, and I see marketing for something that I may want. And if it can predict what I'm going to think, it can certainly push ideas to the brains of the little ones. So just be aware. be aware that it is happening. And if you have kids, guard them. Because we're going to have to render an account of how we raise them. Not so much about what they choose, the destiny that they choose, but we are going to be held accountable. I was talking to the kids and my wife about it just yesterday. We're not going to be held accountable for everything, but we are going to be held accountable for our responsibility for raising God's children because they're not our own. No, they're a gift to us, but they're God's. And how did we do while we were raising them? That's what we're going to be held accountable for. And so when we're saying nothing about what's happening to the Dodgers are kind of a big deal, like Ramon said, it's America's pastime. I know some people are going to, when they were hearing you talk about like Islam, they're going to be like, no, they don't worship Muhammad. Like, dude, they practically worship the dude. If you speak ill of them, heck, you remember like a couple of decades ago, like someone drew Muhammad and they were like shooting up a place. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me they're not doing that kind of stuff. If people are saying, oh, you worship Mary, then, we're gonna take a little liberty. We understand that theologically speaking, they're not supposed to worship Muhammad, but look at practically the way things are. And if anyone dared insult Muhammad like that, like a fraction of what they're doing with Christ himself, there wouldn't just be outrage, there would be blood running down the streets. But Christianity says, thou shalt not kill. Christianity is a faith that they'll know us by our love. But they're really freaking pushing it. They're really pushing it, and men are doing nothing about it. I do see a little bit of backlash online. Like I saw some dudes burning their Dodger gear. And you know what? It may take that. A lot of people are not willing to make that sacrifice because their faith is not that important. But you know what? It has to be. You have to send the message. And yes, you have to get off your butt and stop watching baseball every once in a while just because of your faith. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, one of the guys at work, he's an older guy. He's like 46, 47. And he's really cool. He's quiet most of the time. He's funny, too. He's the one that says the Scarface quote. Es politico chico. Like, he's ugly, man. So that guy, he
Sweet.
Super conservative, and he was talking about like Target, how they're having this. They pulled because they got a ton of backlash on the Satan
the pride display
respects your pronouns or whatever.
They had that?
Yeah,
and how little I know about that stuff.
They pulled that clothing line, the satanic trans line. Dude, like this sounds made up, right?
It sounds made up. It does.
The transsexual LGBT satanic line, and they had to pull it because there was a ton of backlash. But they still have for little boys to tuck in their private parts. Like they have a bathing suit that allows them to do that if they wish to do so. So what kind of garbage is that?
Dang.
And this guy at work, he was saying like us Republicans, we have to start speaking up, and like not the way these idiots. Sorry, I don't know. Whatever, dude. It's a men's podcast. What these idiots are doing? Like we're not gonna do it in a violent, super loud, obnoxious way, but we're gonna vote with our dollar.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, yeah. Like we boycotted Target, like as long as it takes, and we love Target, but if they're gonna be pushing this ridiculous agenda that that we don't agree with, then nah, dude. You keep your rainbows, you keep your tucking in your private parts. Your private parts they're holy. They're holy in the sense that that's what's gonna expand the kingdom of heaven. That's how we reproduce. We reproduce. We have a Catholic army or Christian army, whatever. But those parts are meant to be private, nobody's business, not Target's business. And when you grow up and you get married, you reproduce, and you make the kingdom of heaven even bigger.
Okay, see, I didn't know that about Target.
Yeah, dude.
I thought it was just like, they have the rainbow and the display, and I saw them take it down. I saw them like, they pushed it to the back or whatever.
It was some satanic
but it was like
line.
satanic. It's tucking the parts. Like I didn't know all that mess.
The tucking in the private parts is still there.
I'm done. I'm done with Target.
Yeah,
dude.
so I'm done with Target. We're done with Target, and it's all about being a good example. You know, like, because people say, oh, the Catholic Church is against gays and transgenders. And we already talked about how in the 80s, during the AIDS crisis, how everybody looked at these people like they had leprosy. But who was at the tip of the spear with the humanitarian work? It was the Catholic Church that stepped up and said, come on, brother, there's room for you here. We're going to help you heal up, and so on and so forth.
Or die with dignity.
You know? There's a retired Navy SEAL. His name is Christopher Beck. And this dude, he was kicking down doors and murdering the bad guy and doing all kinds of just manly things. And he grew up like back in the 70s. So it was more, he was a manly man, because he grew up in a farm too. So he knows what being rugged is. I think it was like 2013, 2012, something like that. He decided to transition and he became Kristen Beck. And this dude's super intelligent because he developed a lot of technology, not just for the SEAL teams, but for the military in general. So he's a very intelligent dude. He eventually transitioned back to being a man because he realized, like, hey, dude, like, this is not the way that I'm built. This goes against my very human nature, and there's some twisted degeneracy in this. And he started thinking for himself, and he realized that his childhood trauma is what kind of, well, he used that as an excuse, his childhood trauma, because he was trying to find himself and so on and so forth. And that's why I don't really, and none of us do necessarily, but we don't judge you for your sexuality, your sexual preference. What we hate and despise is the fact that it's just degeneracy. Look at what happened at Sodom and Gomorrah. If you go too far, you're going to get burned down. And maybe God's not going to, set California, San Francisco, LA, on fire like he did with those towns back in the day. But there's going to be a price. There's going to be a price to pay. And, like I had a lot of anger in my heart like a few years ago. And I remember I was just waiting for vengeance and this and that. And it wasn't until I think it was Father Mike Schmitz. I heard one of his homilies where he said, like, because he talked about how he had a lot of anger in his heart, even as a priest. And he quoted I forgot the scripture, but he said, leave room. The Lord says, leave room for the wrath, because vengeance is mine. And it's not yours to go bash some gay dude's head on concrete, or these sisters of the clown, order, whatever, indulgence. But more so, like, this is where we have to tighten up our prayer life and lead our children by example, lead our other brothers by example. Because it's so easy to complain about these clowns, about, oh, these degenerates and this and that. And like, dude, like, yes, that's partially true. But what are you doing about it? Like, they're a terrible example to look at, to follow, to even listen to. But what are you doing? How are you leading? How are you living your life? Are you an example worth following? Because if you're not, you need to check yourself and shut your mouth instead of just talking trash about these clowns.
I'm going to talk trash about the clowns.
Well, you don't just talk trash about these clowns, okay, but you're raising a beautiful family. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go too much into details, but there were somebody was talking about you guys, and they're like, oh yeah, because they're all religious, and they're like, no, like probably the parents are just religious. Like, no, dude, like, everybody is religious. Mom, dad, 14, 12, and 8-year-old.
Now 9.
There you go, 9.
And 13. Dang.
They're all religious. And
Yeah, dude, they don't let us skip prayer. Like,
Right.
they will not eat until we're all seated, and they'll call us out if we start grubbing.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not just talking trash about these idiots. You're raising a beautiful family that's accepting and all that. But just because you're accepting it doesn't mean that you're going to allow all this degeneracy to poison the way that the fabric of our society.
Yeah, we talk to our kids about this stuff. Like, if you're letting the media race them, then you're gonna get what you're gonna get. So they need to know that you have values in the family, and you need to be at the forefront of it. And it's the job of the man to do that.
Yes.
We've given that responsibility for women for far too long. You go to church, what do you see? A bunch of women. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't see a dude standing up for the faith. One of the things that I have to remember because the podcast is getting a little long now, and because I really wanted to mention this, that it appears that everything is going against our values, but it's not the first time it happens. That's the way it started. That's the way that it started when the faith was growing. And you got to remember the words of Jesus in John chapter 15. If the world hates you, realize that it hated me first. If you belong to the world would love its own. But because you do not belong to the world, and I have chosen you out of the world hates you. So remember that whenever you see something in the media that goes against what you believe. Don't be shocked, expect it. Expect it to be in a sneaky manner. Expect it to come from many fronts. And be ready. Be in the state of grace, because if you're in the state of grace, they can't touch you.
So pray for us.
And we'll pray for you.
Ferrum
Ferro.
aquitur.
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?